Hello and welcome to a very special Christmas edition, our second Christmas edition, I think, of Highland and Haver in the Mix. Here we are, it's December 16th, 2021, and we're less than 1 week away from Christmas, and less than 2 days away from a very special event that Greg and I are taking part in this year. Our friend Jeremy Arnold, TCM author and commentator, is going to be joining us in person at the historic Roxy Theater this Saturday, December 18th, to talk about one of our favorite movies and one of his, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, and just think, last year we did the Christmas episode. We had just finished doing our first interview, first podcast interview with Jeremy. And now finally, after a year, we're going to get to actually meet him.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah.
We hope you guys can make it out. Check out our Facebook page, and you can also check out roxybremerton.org for more information about the event. Kind of an all-afternoon type of a thing, on to the evening. Greg and I are going to be on stage with Jeremy for about 45 minutes talking about the film before we show the movie. And it's an amazing opportunity to see this really classic, timeless film from the 40s on the big screen the way that Capra meant it to be seen.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think in everybody's household, a lot of people's households, is a staple every year.
Oh, big time.
But it's on the small screen, and even if you have a big screen, it's not the big screen. And it'd be nice to see this, just like we did with when we started out the movies of the decade.
Yep.
The Roxy with Citizen Kane up on the big screen. It just makes such a difference, and I think this is going to be the same way when we see It's a Wonderful Life. We've got White Christmas at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
And then after that, we're going to have a reception with Jeremy, and then our Q&A with him on stage, and then It's a Wonderful Life at 7 o'clock-ish at night.
Ish.
Ish.
Yeah, ish. And so we thought it was a good time to talk about a drink that's actually mentioned in It's a Wonderful Life. This takes place during George's, we'll call it his existential crisis portion of the film. Clarence is on Earth and is interacting with George. Just saved him from, well, I won't ruin anymore. But they're in Nick's bar, formerly Martini's bar. Things are all discombobulated and changed around, obviously. George is seeing what his life would have been, or what the world would have been like without him. And here he is in Nick's bar, a very different bar. And Clarence, a little naive, kind of a little bit befuddled being back on Earth after all this time. And he doesn't quite order this drink, but he considers it for a minute.
Yeah. So it's the Flaming Rum Punch.
Yes,
and,
the Flaming Rum Punch.
You know, of course, he goes into Nick's, and there's no way Nick's making a Flaming Rum Punch or anything with more than 1 or 2 ingredients.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's for hard drinks to make guys.
As you can see, yes, hard drinks for men who want to get drunk fast.
Yep, exactly.
Even George orders a double bourbon.
Yeah,
so,
which is,
quick.
you know, on brand for the bar. So,
yeah.
you know, in his mind, Clarence eventually settles on mulled wine.
Also not going to happen.
But, yeah, but he wanted a Flaming Rum Punch, so that's what we're going to do here. And we figured, you know, it's been a good year here on the podcast, so we're going to end it on a bang. So,
yeah, there we go.
So it's a rum punch, so obviously it's rum. It's got 3 different kinds of rum. We've got our standard white rum, which you use any white rum for. We're using Bacardi because it's kind of the standard white rum for, you know, your everyday use. Then we've got Bacardi 8 for our aged rum. We're using port, so ruby port, which is the first time we're using port in any of our drinks.
Yeah, not something you would normally think of as going into a cocktail. But
no.
Nice color.
So orgeat, which is almond syrup. Then we've got our overproof rum. So this is 151 proof, which is over 70% alcohol.
It's that extra 1% that really gets you.
Exactly, the 151. So
Yeah.
that's what's going to, that's what we're going to light on fire, or at least try to. And then we've got lime juice and orange juice, and that kind of rounds out the punch part of the rum punch. There's any number of recipes for a Flaming Rum Punch. Typically, this is made in a big bowl for people to share at a party.
Okay.
But we've kind of, you know, reduced it to 1 or 2 servings here. So, but let's give it a shot. So we're going to do our white rum. So this is your one of your favorite scenes of the movie, Matt?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. It's there's actually a lot of humor in this movie. It's at times very depressing, at times very heartening. You'll laugh, you'll cry, without making it sound too jingoistic. But there's a lot of humor, and this is a pretty funny scene. My other favorite scene is when George gets on the phone with Zuzu's teacher. Zuzu, played by Carolyn Grimes, somebody else who we've been lucky to have on the show, and also will be making an appearance on the 18th at the Roxy. She was good enough in all of her travels. She's literally traveling the United States right now. This is her busy season, touring as Zuzu.
She is currently in Seneca Falls, New York, which claims to be the the main inspiration for Bedford Falls.
Right. And she is recorded a special video greeting for everyone who can make it to the Roxy, so that's pretty special. But yeah, when he rags out her teacher for letting her go home without a coat on because she didn't want to smash her pedals, those famous Zuzu's pedals, I lose it every time. And it probably wasn't meant to be a comedic. He's at just a breaking point, and he rags out the teacher, and then the husband gets on. And it's just
the intensity that the desperation that Jimmy Stewart brings to that role is just it's what makes the role makes the film. Because
Absolutely.
without that, you don't get the emotional punch that you would if it was just played more straight.
Well, and you're talking about a guy who just came back from World War II, was probably dealing with some PTSD. Flew dozens and dozens of missions in a B-24 as a captain, and you almost see some of that coming out in his pores.
Yeah.
I mean, as he just, like you said, desperation.
Yeah. Also, didn't hurt that it was filmed during a heat wave in the summer.
Interesting.
Which it's a Christmas movie. A lot of Christmas movies are filmed during the summer. It was a heat wave. They actually had to shut down production for a couple of days because of the heat, but that's why he's sweating a lot in some of the scenes.
There you go.
All right, so let's get. This is the overproof
Float a little bit there.
rum. Yeah.
Don't worry, the recipe will all be online in our show notes in case we talked over any of that mixing.
And for the float, you just put a bar spoon and hit the bar spoon right at the level of the rum there. So or the drink. So, all right, so let's light this
There you go.
up.
Watch your eyebrows, everybody.
All right.
There we go. Hope you guys can see the nice blue flame there.
All right. Well, this
All
is
right.
you should be able to see. Let's put a little cinnamon on.
Ooh.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, a little more. There we go. All
Well,
right.
that smells good.
Let's add some ice in.
And look at that. The flame keeps going. Wow. That's cool.
You're still on fire there.
I think I'm okay.
All right.
Yep.
Blow it up.
Yeah.
All right.
Make sure the flame is not flaming.
Garnish with a cinnamon
There we
stick.
go.
Do that. Stir your. Since we're not shaking this, we're stirring this.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Like your martini.
All right.
Speaking of martinis, and then.
I'll just sip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you normally serve this with a straw?
Yeah.
As a
it
tiki
doesn't
drink?
matter.
All right. Well, to Clarence.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. The rim of the glass is even warm.
Yeah, it
which
is.
is nice.
Yeah.
And now you said before we started shooting that you can make a warm version of this, right? A
Yeah.
hot version.
Yep. So it's just a matter of what you add to it. You can add a hot water oleo mix or simple syrup to give it a sweetness, but also the warmness. I like it cold. I like it on ice.
Say with all these ingredients in there, you're gonna warm up pretty quick.
Yeah, and you can use any. I mean, as long as you've got your rums. The biggest part for the flaming part is to use your overproof rum. You use any mixture of rums, any mixture of juices. Put some pineapple juice in, along with the orange juice to make your punch. Like I said, most of the time this is served in a large quantity for a party, and they just light the whole bowl on fire.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is kind of cool.
Perfect
So-
for Christmas parties, New Year's
Yeah,
parties,
yeah, for
etc.
sure.
And we would love to hear if you have any variations of this that you like or you've tried. Definitely leave it in the comments. We've got, how Greg and I, we love to talk about the stars, but we also love to talk about the people behind the scenes, whether they're Foley artists or composers, screenwriters, and all those kinds of folks are, you can hear in the last 55 episodes we've done on our podcast. And we've got a few character actors that we want to talk about here in a few minutes, so we're gonna do that to talk about Clarence and a couple other actors that appear in this special scene at Nick's/Martinis. So stay tuned. We're gonna move locations and share a little of that with you as we enjoy these.
Okay.
All right.
All right, see you in a bit.
All right. Cheers. Well, thanks for sticking with us. Welcome back to Heilman and Haver in the Mix. Now you know how to make the Flaming Rum Punch. We've, what's this? Had a couple of these by now, right? Yeah, you got to have a couple of test runs before you start talking serious business. And serious business for us is the folks working behind the scenes, or maybe not behind the scenes, but the folks that don't always get all of the acclaim when it comes to some of these major films.
You hear about the Jimmy Stewarts, the Donna Reeds.
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with those stories, and especially as they relate to this film. But you don't hear
Yeah.
a lot about some of the lesser-known folks.
Yeah, and big names. I mean, they definitely bear mentioning. Jimmy Stewart as George Bailey, Donna Reed as Mary Hatch Bailey, John Barrymore. Barrymore, there you go, as Mr. Potter. And of course, Frank Capra directed and also was part of writing the screenplay. So 4 really big names there. But I mean, what really makes this film for me is the supporting actors. And we talked about the Flaming Rum Punch. Clarence. Clarence, played by Henry Travers. And let's get this correct, okay? Clarence Oddbody, AS2, Angel Second Class,
Yep.
right? Of course, George Bailey's guardian angel shows about halfway through the movie when George is in the most direst of straits and comes along to show him what life would be like without him. Hopefully you all have seen the film. If not, show up on the 18th at the historic Roxy, and we're going to be showing it at 7 o'clock with an intro from our friend Jeremy Arnold. An amazing performance, and an actor that most people may really never heard of.
No.
Born March 5th in Prudhoe, Northumberland, England, of course, in the United Kingdom. Of course, back then, a veteran of the English stage before emigrating to the United States, worked on Broadway and began a long film career in 1933. The kindly grandfatherly demeanor that we see from Clarence became very familiar to filmgoers over the next 25 years. And he was in films like High Sierra, The Bells of St. Mary, another classic, 1945. But Henry Travers will really be always remembered as Clarence, the somewhat befuddled angel back on Earth to help poor old George.
There's a lot of films back in that era, in the 40s and even in the 50s, that you'll see these character actors in all of them, and you'll recognize them. You won't know their name.
Yes.
Sometimes you won't even know where you know them from.
Right.
But you know them,
Right.
and he's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And in 1943, he was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, again, in a supporting role. It wasn't for It's a Wonderful Life. It was for Mrs. Miniver, another classic of that era. The cool thing about Henry Travers is that he actually appeared in 7 Oscar Best Picture nominees. Dark Victory, Mrs. Miniver, Random Harvest, Madame Curie, The Bells of St. Mary's, which you mentioned, The Yearling, another classic from the 40s, and of course, It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life did not win, surprisingly. It was actually panned at the box office. It was not terribly popular. It wasn't until the television reruns. When was the first time you saw it?
Oh, boy.
We got to go way back.
Yeah. Probably, maybe the late 80s.
Okay. Probably about the same time I saw it for the first time.
One of those times when NBC started to run it, because before, NBC started to run it every year.
Yeah.
Before that, you couldn't find it. Nobody played it at all. And you couldn't, even in, I'm trying to even remember if.
Now, did you see it on Thanksgiving? I remember watching it on Thanksgiving at my grandparents'. It might have been Christmas Eve, though. I mean, we're going back quite a few decades for both of us here.
I don't think it was Christmas Eve because I don't know that they did that at first.
See, I feel like it was a Thanksgiving film, maybe.
Or somewhere early in the Christmas season, but it wasn't Christmas Eve. And I think that's more recent. This whole, it's on like a marathon. It's over and over and over again.
Right, and with channels like TCM specializing in that sort of thing. Yeah, I have very, very vivid memories as a child at my grandparents' house on their rather small television, like we all saw on the small screen, and just loving the movie, loving Jimmy Stewart. Personal connection with Jimmy Stewart. My dad met him 4 years old, something like that, when he was filming Cheyenne Autumn. But always idolized Jimmy Stewart, and probably my first exposure to him in a film. But again, there's plenty of star power in the movie, but there's a massive supporting cast here. And obviously Henry Travers is one of them. One of my favorite moments in the film, George Bailey, quote, "You look about like the kind of angel I'd get," as he's standing there with his long underwear.
Yeah.
My wife bought these for me before I died. So someone who, the thing about these guys is that they're worth remembering. They're worth mentioning. And when you take them outside of that one role that they're known for, quite an illustrious career a lot of these guys had. And a couple other actors we want to focus on tonight because of the scene that we took the Flaming Rum Punch from is this setting where George and Clarence show up at Nick's bar, formerly Martini's bar. Martini is a family that the Bailey brothers help find a home. So there's this long backstory, but George is not, reality has kind of ceased to exist.
Yeah, nobody recognizes him.
Right.
And he expects everybody to recognize him. I think that's where
disconnect.
The conflict.
Yeah.
The conflict comes in, and the confusion is not just he expects that nothing's changed, even though Clarence has told him basically that everything has, that you don't exist.
Yeah, and I did some YouTubing last night, and if you watch Jimmy Stewart's face, he walks into the bar, because this is a place that he's been recently prior to, well, we'll just say heading to the bridge, and you see these micro expressions in his face. This is a place I know, but now I don't. It's almost like a speakeasy. There's raucous piano playing, and it's packed. It's not the martinis he remembers. He doesn't even recognize the marquee, obviously, because it's now Nick's. Now, Nick is a minor character, but he becomes a major character in this scene, and he became a very major character in entertainment after playing a lot of heavies. Sure. Now I got to read you this list of this. Now, Nick was played by Sheldon Leonard. Okay, he was born in New York City in February 22nd, 1907, and he actually got he started working on Wall Street. But after the crash in 1929, he found himself unemployed. He resolved to become an actor. After appearing on Broadway for a few years, he was offered several movie roles. These are the roles that he played: Pretty Willie, Slit Moran, Lippy Harris, Jumbo Schneider, and famously Harry the Horse in a small film called Guys and Dolls, okay, in 1955. He got tired of that. He moved into television, okay. 4 of his productions, all on CBS: The Danny Thomas Show, Gomer Pyle USMC, The Dick Van Dyke Show, which won 21 Emmys, by the way. Happy late birthday to Dick Van Dyke, by the way. And The Andy Griffith Show, another of my favorites, were rated in the top 10. He had a lot of success with I Spy in 1965, and he championed the cause of racial equality by casting Bill Cosby. Can we say Bill Cosby anymore?
We can say
in this
Bill,
setting we can't say.
Yeah.
As an equal 1965, as an equal co-starring dramatic role with a white actor, just a generation ago. It's really it's pretty staggering. And he also was regarded as having invented the TV spin-off with Gomer Pyle USMC, The Andy Griffith Show. Stream them, watch them, right? And here's the great thing about Sheldon Leonard. 10 years after his death in 1997, he continued to impact TV in an interesting way. Fans of The Big Bang Theory will recognize this. The characters Sheldon Cooper and Leonard Hofstadter were named after him.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
That's crazy.
Isn't that phenomenal?
Yeah.
So the guy had a really big impact beyond this rather small role in It's a Wonderful Life. And of course, It's a Wonderful Life is a very melancholy film. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of there's a lot of humanity in the film.
There is. There's the humor that you talked about. There's a lot of. There's passion. My favorite scene is the Sam Wainwright phone call where George and Mary are on the phone, and they're not saying anything.
Yeah, they're about this close from each other.
Yeah, and that is, to me, it's a crucial scene. For their relationship. Yeah. But it's just one of those things.
The smolder.
Yeah, anytime actors can emote without saying anything to that extent, it's just it's incredible.
Yeah, and one of the more sympathetic characters, I think, is Mr. Gower.
For sure.
The druggist that George Bailey really saves from poisoning. The great thing about It's a Wonderful Life is it spans. And it's a rather long film, but it spans a lot of years. Mm-hmm. George Bailey, as a child, this is the World War I era. Mr. Gower, the druggist, loses a son in World War I. He's mourning the son, and he mistakenly mixes in a prescription, really, but he mixes it with poison, something that would poison the patient. And George Bailey keeps him from sending it out, essentially, to the child that would have been poisoned. And in this scene, at Nick's, Mr. Gower walks in and is painted as really a derelict.
Yeah.
Someone who
a rummy.
Tragedy happened to him. because obviously George wasn't there to save him from it, and is really a bum, a drag of society, and juxtapose that with the accomplishment that this actor had, H.B. Warner, born in 1876 in London. He came from a long line of actors. Family wanted to be a doctor. I think all actors' families want them to be a doctor, don't? He studied acting in Paris, joined his father's stock company. Funny enough, his father and grandfather were both actors. But he made it to the United States in the 1900s after touring the British Empire, made his Broadway debut, and appeared in 13 more Broadway productions after that first show. Quickly became a leading man and star in silent films, including his zenith playing Jesus in Cecil B. DeMille's The King of Kings.
And no relation to Jack Warner of Warner.
No relation to Jack Warner. When Talkies arrived, he became a busy supporting actor, and he was actually a favorite of Frank Capra. So he appeared in several films. Again, 9 Oscar Best Picture nominees, similar to Henry Travers. 5-star final. A Tale of Two Cities, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, Lost Horizon, You Can't Take It With You, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, another Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life in 1946, appeared as himself in Sunset Boulevard, 1950 with Billy Wilder, and The Ten Commandments. Unfortunately, he had his scenes deleted from another in Viva Villa from 1934, and You Can't Take It With You is the only winner in the category. And 5 of these shows, or of these films, were directed by Frank Capra, so obviously a favorite of his. Again, another actor whose best role, or best remembered role, is in It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, you mentioned Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So Beulah Bondi, who played Jimmy Stewart's mom, had done that previously in 3 previous appearances in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Right. Another must-see from that era, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Just, if it says Jimmy Stewart on it, just watch it.
Yeah.
Just watch it.
Yeah, of Human Hearts and Vivacious Lady, and then eventually also played his mom on the Jimmy Stewart Show a little while later. But so Frank Capra obviously had people he trusted.
Almost like a rep theater where you have recurring characters or recurring actors who play different characters. And like Greg said earlier, you see a lot of these folks in different movies over the course of maybe a decade or two. I know that guy from something, or I know that gal from something. And, again, they really add, especially in films like It's a Wonderful Life, they really add body and substance to a film. You can't hang a film on, and I don't know, nowadays, sometimes films are hung on one star or the other. But back, we're talking almost 80 years ago now, films were a collaboration and really were made substantial by the supporting actors.
It's an ensemble.
Right.
And it's when you have an ensemble like that, you take one of those characters out. It's been such a part of our culture for so long. You can't imagine any of these parts being played by anybody else other than the folks that did them.
Yeah, absolutely right. And going back to Henry Warner, Mr. Gower, the druggist who shows up at the very end of the scene that we've been discussing. He died in 1958. California, age 82. His last credited role was as Aminadab in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments. Now, our connection with The Ten Commandments is, again, a past guest of ours, Kathy Garver, who appeared as a child actor in that film. Worked with Cecil B. DeMille. Episode 40 and 41, go back and watch those. That's our way of saying 55 episodes, check them out.
Yeah. And speaking of other past guests, Robert Bader, who wrote the Cary Grant biography, when RKO purchased the rights to It's a Wonderful Life, they wanted Cary Grant to play George Bailey.
Wow, that would have been a completely different film.
Yeah, but and we've talked about that.
Mary.
We've talked about that in a number of films. Kind of the what if casting, and it ends up being
fun. It's fun to follow those trails.
Yeah, but it ends up being what it should have been. So when Frank Capra eventually was put in charge of the film, he went right out and got Jimmy Stewart. So thankfully he did. It would have been a much different film. And given you were talking before about Jimmy Stewart's circumstances around making the film, just coming back from the war, it definitely informed his character and made it, what it is. And I can't see it any other way.
Yeah. The rest is history. And this has been a great year for us. A great year in history for us. 55 episodes total. I don't know how many of these we've drank in various, mixtures, but thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting the podcast and all of our live events. Again, December 18th, come out to the Roxy Theater and see Jeremy Arnold. We'll be asking him a few questions on stage before we see It's a Wonderful Life on the big screen the way that Capra filmed it originally. And thank you all for all the support. It's been a wonderful year. Again, check out the cocktail. We're going to have all the recipe in the show notes. And we wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year. We're looking at 2022. We've got a lot of stuff planned and lined up for 2022. A little change in format. You might be seeing more of us, hearing less of us. We don't know quite yet.
You don't know.
But
we've got some things in the works that I think
Yeah.
you're gonna enjoy.
Yeah. Stage and screen. We're going to keep that going. So cheers. Cheers to you, sir.
All right, we're going to have to go light some more drinks on fire.
Yeah, this is getting a little light here.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.